Hey everybody, I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just want to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in Season 2, Episode 3 of the Loki series. So if you haven't watched that episode yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Disney+, check that out, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down everything from Season 2, Episode 3 of the Loki series, it's Rico!
Hey, what's up?
I've been practicing my Loki magic.
Yeah, I was looking around because I got distracted and stuff. Loki distractions. Yeah. Oh yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
I just need to in post put in like green sparks coming from my hands.
Ooh.
Now I'm gonna specifically leave it out just so it seems really awkward now. Anyway, Loki Season 2, Episode 3. Love the episode. I have to kick it off right as it started. I loved the old-timey piano version of the Marvel theme that we got.
Yeah, that was fun.
In the opening. That was amazing. The only thing I can think of though, like I'm always like thinking about like pop culture references as I'm watching it and everything. The only thing, do you remember the characters from Family Guy that go,
"Play me off, Johnny"?
I just immediately started thinking of that and started like giggling as we were entering the episode. But I mean, nothing aside, I thought that was a pretty cool rendition of it, and it got me in the mood of. I mean, I already saw the title that was 1893, but that got me in the mood of, okay, we're definitely going to be visiting a time in the past, and I can't wait to see where it is. And yeah, the episode delivered. I loved all of the stuff that we got in the past. I loved how we actually got pretty much a full episode at this one location and time location, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So we really got time to our characters to kind of live in that time period, which was really cool to kind of see, the struggles, I guess not the struggles, but like how they interacted with old timey stuff, and how, even Loki's magic, they had to play it off as it was like a trick, like everything. It wasn't really him teleporting somebody or anything. So I just really there was so much of this episode that I really did enjoy. But before I get too deep into that, because there's plenty of stuff I want to talk about and takeaways and predictions, stuff like that. Rico, what were some of your instant reactions from episode 3?
Yeah, I really love this episode. I think it was a big step up from not just last week's episode, but also from like each episode has been really solid. But I think this is definitely like the best one of the 3 so far. I really love that we got the focus on Ravonna and Miss Minutes and Jonathan Majors as Victor Timely. Just kind of like getting it's what I wanted last week, right? When I said I wanted the episode to focus mostly on their story, and that's exactly pretty much what it was. Like Loki and Mobius were there, Sylvie was there, but they kind of just showed up at the end of these big moments between Victor and Ravonna. So yeah, I love that we catch up from where Ravonna leaves off and how she kind of like kickstarts Victor's journey that he ends up going on, which I kind of love the whole scene of her dropping off the TVA guidebook. There's that guidebook again playing a big role in someone's story. Yeah, I love how that kind of like kickstarts his journey into what he becomes later on in life. And then how, of course, that played into the whole Ant-Man tie-in that we saw in the post-credit scene. So yeah, that was really cool. And of course, like I got to give a shout out to Jonathan Majors, the great actor, but like his ability to take each of these Kang variant performances and make each one of them their own thing is just really fun to watch. Like watching him as Victor Timely in this episode was really interesting, and I found him like kind of charming and also kind of like sympathetic at the same time. So like I don't know where to go because like he brings up good points in the episode about you don't know my heart, so it's all about just because there's multiple versions of him doesn't mean there's endless versions of him doesn't mean they're all like people who are going to destroy the multiverse. So yeah, I'm very interested to see what more of this performance is going to bring out of him, and yeah, great episode.
I was pretty sure I could almost hear you yelling, "I got everything I want." I was almost gonna ask you as soon as we jumped into this was did you stamp all your bingo squares on your bingo card?
Bingo!
Because you got Miss Minutes, you
Oh,
got
dude.
Ravona, you got Victor Timely, you
I
got
got so
an
many
entire episode dedicated to mostly those three. You got literally everything you wanted that you were asking for last week.
Oh yeah, I basically yelled Yahtzee at the end of it. It was great.
That was literally going to be the only thing I was going to put in my opening thing on the rundown was Rico got everything you wanted.
Big story progression, and not just Loki story progression, but MCU story progression too, because we're obviously getting to see how like these characters are going to play a part later on in the whole multiverse saga.
Yeah,
and yeah, I'm just super excited.
So there's so many things that I almost had to stop myself because there's some stuff I want to talk about in takeaways that's a perfect lead in for some of the stuff that you were talking about. So do you want to get to some big takeaways?
Let's do it.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna kick us off. Now there's two takeaways. So I'm gonna talk about the Victor Timely one first because it kind of leads into a question that I have with something that you brought up in how you were thinking of the portrayal of the Kang variant Victor Timely being almost like sympathetic. But I'm not sure if that is an act or not, because as we saw, Victor Timely, they basically made Victor Timely into an inventor of that time, that era, which I was saying like on par with like Nikola Tesla, where like, he had all of these huge ideas that didn't end up catching on type of thing. But they would have been like really revolutionary ideas, basically for electricity.
Super ahead of their time,
right? Yeah. So I was looking at it as like that kind of thing. But then as you saw the progression a little bit more, and you saw Victor interacting with some of the other people from that time, you were seeing that he was not only an inventor, but he was somewhat of a con man. Yeah. and we even have Loki point that out type of thing.
Yeah.
And he says he's a luminary or like type of thing. But so now I'm wondering, is the Victor Timely persona, is that an act? Like the whole time I was wondering if is he really on the level, or is he just able to play his part so well that we don't know, if this guy is truly a bad guy, or if he's like just one of, like you said, a sympathetic variant type of thing, or just doesn't have that I want to conquer everybody instinct and prune all the timelines instinct, but I want to progress humanity kind of type of thing. You know what I mean? Like there's both ends of that coin, but because he was portrayed as a con man, I don't know if we can trust, the way that he's already kind of shown his character so far. I don't know if that was just an act to like, make sure Sylvie doesn't stab him. We don't know. So anyway, so that's what I want to have marinate, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what happens, because now he's pretty much getting everything he wants. Like they brought him out of his time. He's going to the TVA. He's doing all this stuff. So like, now we're going to see, I think, the true character of Victor Timely. And I'm hoping I'm wrong. I don't want him to be like Kang the Conqueror mentality type of thing. But I guess we'll see. But anyway, my other takeaway that I really, really enjoyed was the scene where Loki and Mobius are first walking around in 1893, and they come to the three statues of Thor, Odin, and what is it, Balder?
Yeah,
Balder the Great. Yeah,
Balder the Brave. Yeah,
yeah, or the Brave. It just, that whole scene just encapsulated what I really like about some of my favorite MCU movies, like Thor Ragnarok and like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, where it's just that little end of like self-deprecating humor, that real like the last thing that Loki said of that scene was
Thor's not that tall.
Thor's not that tall. Like just that little like jab that they have to put in, because and they do that, and like there's plenty of occasions where Star-Lord's done that over the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, and there were plenty of those little ones in Thor Ragnarok and other small things in other movies and stuff like that. But it just makes, I just feel like every time that happens and it's done right, it makes the characters feel real. Like it really is, because that's a real life thing. Like when somebody's upset and they just want to like, he's not doing it for anyone. Mobius has already walked away. He's doing it for himself. And it's just that little thing that I think everyone out there can relate with. Either you maybe don't say it out loud, but you think it real hard. Like when you're upset at something like that in one of those kind of situations. And it makes it so much more real. And I loved that. And I loved that we got that. And it made me appreciate the Loki character that much more. And it just brought up what I really do like about those moments in the MCU from past movies and stuff like that. So it just made me think of that, and it was really awesome. But Rico, what were some of your big takeaways from episode 3?
Yeah, what I thought was interesting about the scene with the three statues, the Odin, Thor, and Balder, is I'm not sure if we've ever gotten a reference to Balder in the MCU before, the other one of the other sons of Odin. It would be kind of cool to see Balder in the MCU at some point, because now we have like clearly this is like a universe where Balder is the other son and not Loki. Because like, hey, why aren't you up there? And then I like that interaction where Mobius is like, oh, like it's cool that you're one of them. Like it's you don't really acknowledge that. Like, yeah, it's pretty cool. He's actually one of like the Norse gods. So I did like that whole scene in itself. It was really fun. The whole scene of Victor giving his presentation with the whole, and then like the loom itself, like lighting up at the beginning, was really awesome itself. But for me, my big takeaways are, first of all, everything that took place in Victor's lab was pretty much amazing. I think that's where the episode really kind of like took off for me. One, as soon as they get there, Victor's packing all the stuff up, and then he picks something up off of his desk that like opens up, and I'm wondering if they look very Kang related. I'm just saying.
Oh, it looks like the time chair itself.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looked like the chair. They kind of kept it away from us visually, but you could see like little gold circles moving. So I'm like, oh my gosh, that's very interesting. And then of course that's where we get the scary turn of Miss Minutes, where she just goes like scary AI love crazy lady on Victor. Like, why won't you just give me a body and stuff like that? And then she puts her face on the mannequin, which was really creepy. But just first of all, just like the way that character is just kind of showing her power. You know, she's kind of showing her cards a little bit. I it's crazy how they're just taking this like cartoon clock and making it like this, kind of character to be reckoned with. But I also love the scene where she turns into the kaiju monster, the ghost of Midway or whatever it was. And then how they kind of make light of it, which is kind of funny, because of course it's silly at the end of the day. But I just kind of like the way they use it as like a distraction so they can get them out of there. And then like right after all that, like Victor's able to turn off Miss Minutes, like luckily avoid that whole thing. And then, but right away, he's confronted by Ravonna, who he just betrayed earlier, which was also pretty crazy. And he's got she's got a prototype of like the
pruning wand,
the pruning wand, which I thought was pretty cool. I thought someone was gonna get pruned for a second, and I was like, oh, I wonder if like Victor's gonna get pruned, it's gonna send him to the end of time, blah blah. Like it's gonna be just a whole circle thing. But at the end of that, they kind of come to this resolution where it's like Sylvie doesn't kill him and lets Loki and Mobius take Victor to TVA, and then she kicks Ravonna through a time door, and where does she send her? Boom, right to where he remains. The dead corpse is still sitting from when Sylvie stabbed him. Love the shot of like the decayed corpse on the chair still. Kind of gives you a good sense of how long it's been there. But boy, I got, like you said, I got everything I wanted in this episode. I got the full episode about Ravonna and Victor and Miss Minutes. But I also got, I didn't get it the way I wanted it to, or not the way I wanted to, but the way I expected to. But I got it in an even better way. I got to see Ravonna discovering he remains dead body and kind of being like, oh, where do we go from here? So yeah, with her being stuck at the end of time, it's going to be very, very interesting to see where they're going to go next week.
Yeah, I can't wait to see where they pick up from this. But I I did love the Miss Minutes, Ravonna, Victor Timely love triangle that was
Oh
going
yeah.
on. Like the
And
whole
when Ravonna turns her back on, she's like, "Love you." She's like, "Oh."
yeah, that whole thing where they were going back and forth, and Minutes was like, I was around since before the TVA, before the war, like just like going back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny, and even when they both get pushed to the end of time by Sylvie, because I mean,
Mhm.
Ravonna had the whatever
She has a
contraption that,
device that can trap. Yeah.
yeah, whatever Miss Minutes is locked into, she had her at the end, and even then, it still felt like I hate you, but we've got to
Mhm.
work together to get our guy.
Oh yeah.
Type of thing. Like it's just funny. I like that dynamic, and I'm interested to see them to like interact together even more, just because I like that dynamic. Type of thing. I thought it was really funny. Yeah, they just like you got everything you wanted. Like I'm super happy with this episode. Like I liked the last episode, but like yeah, just like you said, I this might be the strongest episode of the three so far.
Oh yeah.
It was so much fun. I just like the chaos of everything happening. Like, like it just everyone fighting. You don't know what's going to happen to Victor. He's like sitting there, like half the time, like screaming or worried he's about to die. Like, just so many things happening
Mhm.
back and forth. He's got this crazy AI that's trying to like get him to build their body. Like, just insanity like happening
Yeah.
type
Absolutely
of thing
insane.
the whole time. So I really liked all that chaos throughout the entire episode. You ready to some predictions?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Awesome. Why don't you kick us off with predictions?
Okay, yeah. So obviously, one of the things I'm very excited about because now that we know Victor's going to the TVA with Mobius and Loki to kind of help them out with their problem with the loom, um, I'm very very excited to see Victor interact with Ouroboros. And it's gonna be interesting because he's gonna meet him kind of like the way everybody else is meeting him. It's like, oh my gosh, you're the guy that wrote the TVA guidebook, and so he's actually gonna be excited to meet him. But I wonder how Ouroboros is gonna react to meeting him, because I'm sure he's got to be one of the ones who hasn't really been mind wiped.
Yeah.
And so I wonder like what his past interactions with the humans was, before that. So yeah, that's probably the biggest thing I'm excited to see there on that end. Obviously continuing off with Loki and Mobius doing them time jumping anywhere and just doing stuff is just fun to look forward to every week. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very excited for next week in particular because I've heard some amazing things about the episode. So yeah, I'm very excited.
You know what's really funny, and I just thought of this now. Loki and Mobius on like a mission dynamic is just like the first Men in Black. I feel like like that whole like thing where it's like the guy that knows like that has been in that specialty unit for so
That's
long,
funny.
and
Yeah.
then like the newer recruit type of thing, and the newer recruit has better like probably arguably better skills, but I'm just saying like it's that dynamic of
It's the
like
classic buddy cop
right,
dynamic. Usually
right,
the person who's like, I've been here for a while, and then the new grizzly young
right.
person is like, yeah, let me go on there with you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that.
The other thing I was thinking of when you were talking about Victor Timely and OB finally interacting type of thing, what's crazy is because yes, we know that OB is like one of the only people who's never had his mind wiped. We don't know how many times this has actually happened.
Right.
This might just be like every 100 or so years for OB type of thing. Like we don't know. He's not like spilling anything like just voluntarily type of thing. You know what I mean? Like this might just be something that happens every few hundred years or every couple hundred years. And so he may have met multiple King variants already. So he might not have any crazy interaction at all. It might all
Right.
be like super intense on Victor's side because Victor's like had this TVA handbook since he was a small child, basically. And he's grown up trying to learn it, basically. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting. Just like you, I'm very excited to see that interaction. One thing that I'm interested to find out. Like now, I just when I finished the episode, I was sitting there going, "What could it possibly be?" Is as we're getting that final shot of Ravonna and Miss Minutes at the end of time, next to, He Who Remains Decaying Body, as you has aptly said. We have Miss Minutes talking about secrets and saying like, "Oh, well, I could tell you some. I know quite a big one."
Yeah, just because I got a big one about you.
It's gonna make you real angry.
I really want to know what she's talking about and what that's going to be put into play, because there's two ways you could go with that. Either she could be lying and making something up to make Ravonna, back off from trying to, get buddy with any of Kang's variants. Like she could say something like, He Who Remains told me he was just using you and leading you on to, you know what I mean? Like she could say something like that, and it could just be that's her motive to try to push her away. Or it could be true, and we find out that, maybe He Who Remains had set up something in to at some point double cross Ravonna, or at some point, uses Ravonna, because Ravonna, from at the very beginning of this episode, did not know why she was at that time location. She didn't know she was dropping off the book. So this plan was not hers, type of thing.
Right.
Everything that kicked
Miss
off.
Minutes, yeah.
Right. Everything that kicked this off was all Miss Minutes and He Who Remains, type of thing. So this is all she's just following whatever clues and breadcrumbs she's been given. So I'm very interested about that secret and what that could potentially, lead to, I guess, for Ravonna, and finding more about. I feel like we're gonna find more about He Who Remains, almost not flashbacks, but just almost what we're gonna learn from Miss Minutes and Ravonna's relationship with He Who Remains, and this bringing up all of this kind of feelings from Victor Timely, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I cannot wait. I know we're recording this immediately after the episode ended.
Yeah, we literally just watched it. One thing I was thinking though, so that when we had the scene on the boat between Victor and Ravonna, and they have that little hand holding scene or whatever, it had me thinking about the first episode when Loki's time slipping and he hears the tape recording of Ravonna and what we assume is He Who Remains. But Victor's whole presentation was talking about temporal marvels, and then the recording, Ravonna was Ravonna say you are a marvel. So part of me wonder if he was listening to a future recording of them talking to each other at one point, because the whole thing is just trying to mess your head as far as what's happening when, and getting to think about what we're listening to. It could all be there's a reason why we heard that recording in the first place, and obviously we're seeing it play out here in this episode with them meeting, and the way that little dynamic played out in that whole scene was kind of hinting that as well. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen there.
The only thing that makes me wonder if that is Victor Timely, and or maybe it's two different King. I'm still under the impression that could technically be two different King variants in the same room. Obviously, Ravonna's there because that mentioned her by name, but there's part of me that thinks maybe there's two variants in that recording. But Victor has this big thing about partnership. He doesn't want a partner. You know what I mean?
Right,
So
and that's what drew the line with the verse right there.
Right. So him saying that in the recording, saying what was it? Something along the lines of, "I'm so happy to have you as on my team," or something like that.
Right. Yeah. By my side. Yeah.
By my side. Yeah. So that's what makes me wonder if it's not,
Mm-hmm.
Ravonna, or if it is, or I mean, not Victor Timely, or if it is, then he's saying that to the other person that's in the room, type of thing, and then also commenting to Ravonna. I feel like the only in Victor's mind, the only partner he'd ever have would be himself.
Right.
So that's the potential of maybe him working with another Kang variant type of thing. So it's very interesting. I love the idea that recording is going to come back into play, and I never thought that potentially could be the future TVA. That's crazy to think about. I feel like we're getting into the territory of Lost, where there's just so many different things stacked on other stuff. You never know if we're in the past, present, or future.
Yeah.
But anyway, as we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of episode 3? And what is this big secret that Miss Minutes had? And How excited is Victor Timely going to be when he finally comes face to face with the creator of the TVA handbook, OB himself? And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.